As a kid, it was not an infrequent occurrence that I would get grounded. On this one particular occasion, it was a Friday. I'd acted up at the place of daycare, and when my parents picked me up, man, this lady told them all about it, and that meant I was grounded to my room for the entire weekend. The worst part about it is I was a huge football fan, and there was a big game on that weekend that had huge implications. And sadly, I missed it all because I was stuck in my room. Now, even though in some ways that was a miserable experience, it did make me think twice before misbehaving again. And the good thing was once that weekend was over, my privileges were restored. And as we continue our look at 1 Corinthians 5, we're going to see that Paul's heart and his hope through this process of discipline and very tough love is restoration. And that's so important for us to cling to. So let's read 1 Corinthians 5, verses 4 and 5. So when you are assembled, and I am with you in spirit, and the power of our Lord Jesus is present, hand this man over to Satan for the destruction of his flesh, so that his spirit may be saved on the day of the Lord. Now, hopefully you've been with us for the last couple of devotions. Otherwise, this probably feels like way out of context. So here's a man, he has slept with his stepmom, and he has gone without any consequences. And it hasn't been taken seriously. So Paul has now stepped in, and he's told the church, hey, you need to actually remove this man from your fellowship. Now, on one hand, this might seem harsh to us, but notice Paul's end goal. It's so that he may be saved on the day of the Lord. In other words, this momentary tough discipline is a means by which God will preserve this man in his faith. Now, perhaps you're wondering, why this has to happen? And second, what is its relevance today? Well, the major catalyst for Paul saying for him to be removed actually isn't the act or his sin in and of itself. It's his refusal to turn from his sin. Now, you might be thinking, well, don't we all sin? None of us are perfect. And you're absolutely right. Not by any stretch of the imagination, right? The issue is whether or not we willingly stay in that sin, or whether or not we're willing to turn from it and acknowledge our wrong. And so when Jesus lays this principle out in the book of Matthew 18, the removal of someone is the last step, right? First, someone goes and lovingly confronts someone in hopes to win them. And then if that doesn't work, there's 2 or 3 others that go. And then finally, the person is brought before the church. And so the ultimate hope is that this person will turn from their ways and be restored. And so that's the heart of it. Now, I love how God works. So I'm going to jump ahead to the book of 2 Corinthians. And what I want us to do is see the end result of this man being removed from the fellowship. So I'm going to read 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 5 through 8. And I think this is just a beautiful picture of what happened after they removed him. So Paul's addressing this church in regard to the same incident. If anyone has caused grief, he has not so much grieved me as he has grieved all of you to some extent. The punishment inflicted on him, that's this man, by the majority is sufficient. Now instead, you ought to forgive and comfort him so that he will not be overwhelmed by excessive sorrow. I urge you, therefore, to reaffirm your love for him. So this is beautiful. After some time went by, the result of him being removed for a time from the fellowship because of his refusal to turn from his sin was that he was convicted, he saw the error of his way, and he was restored. And so we see really this crystal clear process of the intent behind the discipline was restoration. So the loving thing to do in this case, right, it would not have been to just let this man continue to go down the road he was going down, but it was to lovingly hold him accountable so he can truly experience that restoration. So I want to leave you with this one question. Is there someone in your life that perhaps is on the outside that perhaps needs to be comforted and restored in some way?